Once again, welcome to this spotlight on Israel. What a joy to speak with you on behalf of the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, the Canadian branch. I want to share a few thoughts with you today about the restoration of Israel. And first of all, I would like to tell you that the restoration of Israel to the land of Canaan is something that is vouched for in the Word of God that goes way back to Abraham. It is the Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 3 that says the Abrahamic covenant cannot be annulled and it cannot be abolished in any way. He said that even men, when they sign contracts and seal documents of sale, they don't go back afterwards and change them. And Paul the Apostle says that the promises that God made to Israel and the Jewish people in the Abrahamic covenant cannot be annulled. And again, the writer of the book of Hebrews in chapter 6, in encouraging Messianic Jews, believers from the Jewish world in the first century who had accepted Jesus, he says to them they can know that God is faithful to them and that He loves them and will keep faith with them because of the promises of God to Abraham. And then the writer says that God, by two immutable things, by which it is impossible for God to lie, by His word and by His character, He gave the promises to Abraham. And these promises include the promise of land. And whenever the Jewish people have come back to the land of Canaan, there's been a conflict, there's been an uprising, there's been a desire to disinvest them of the land and to remove it from them. A tiny piece of land that is no bigger than a game reserve in South Africa. The whole thing is ridiculous at first glance. But ladies and gentlemen, the root of this conflict does not lie in a political dispute or some type of debate about colonialism that took place as a consequence of the aftermath of the First World War. This debate has to do with an ideology, a radical, militant Islamic ideology that actually says that any piece of land that was once under the heel of Islam, under its domination and sovereignty, can never return to those who formerly held it. And if it does, it constitutes a charge of apostasy over Islam. For more than 800 years, the land of Israel was under the dominance and the sovereignty of Islam in many ways, but finally under the Turkish Ottoman Empire. The establishment of the nation of Israel in the heartland of Islam was something theologically that for militant and radical Islam cannot take place. It must be reversed. And if we ignore this major pillar in this conflict, and we make as if it doesn't exist, when all the time it's the elephant in the room, we will find ourselves, by political correctness, supporting an agenda for the destruction and the murder of the Jewish people. It is not by coincidence that the actual constitution of Iran is apocalyptic. The constitution of Iran demands of the Iranian people that they liquidate the state of Israel on Islamic grounds. Now, this is the truth of the conflict. We have to understand that. And building into that is then this whole question of the boycott, disinvestment, sanction campaign that actually started in Canada, in Toronto. This campaign has as its agenda not a two-state solution, not a one-state solution, but a complete dismantling of the Jewish state. It is rooted in anti-Semitism. It is therefore so depressing and awful to see Christian churches aligning themselves with a militant, radical Islamic agenda for the destruction of Israel and ignoring it in every one of their statements and their press releases, as if it doesn't exist, when the Charter of the Palestinian Authority continues to call for the destruction of Israel, and the Charter of Hamas calls for the destruction of Israel and the murder of every Jew. It is shameful, absolutely shameful, that Christian churches can ally themselves with such an agenda. We need to pray for the church, because once again, it is betraying the Jewish people and playing into the hands of a radical Islamic agenda for their murder. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to think about this. You cannot ignore it. You cannot leave it. It is an urgent matter that must be addressed, and this doesn't mean that every Muslim is evil or wicked, but there is a raging, militant, radical Islam in the Middle East today that is killing and beheading Christians and has in its gun sights the Jewish people.
Please share this video, and on YouTube, click the button below to become a subscriber. In consideration of Canada's 150th birthday, please consider 150 ways to bless Israel through your Christian embassy, the ICEJ Canada. Consider becoming a $150 monthly donor. Plant 150 trees, 150 prayers for Israel. The opportunities are endless. Please contact us.